Roll call has been taken. Commissioner Hanson will be late, but he will be here.
Okay.
He called me earlier and said, "This is Chris." And I had to ask him, which Chris?
Sure, yeah.
Because Chris Jokic is in town. Some of you may remember Chris Jokic. Public comments. There is only one non-commission or department person in the room. Do we have any public comments? He's nodding his head no, shaking his head no. All right, we have none of those. Approval of the minutes of October 12th, 2023 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Okay, is there a second? Thank you. Are there any corrections, changes, or discussion concerning those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion. Is that roll call? No. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. All opposed, same sign. Fire service and law enforcement news update. And Bill, we may have a long meeting, so if you want to start.
I will move this along. We have an article about establishing solar arrays on fire stations to help power electric rigs. I've included one which came out on Monday, November 6th. This is from the Superior Fire Department. They now have a rooftop solar array, and their intent is to use that to power the headquarters station, charge their two electric command vehicles, and provide a charging capacity for larger apparatus that they may get that's electric. Their generating capacity is estimated to be at 170% of their normal usage. So then with the buyback from the electric company, they're going to offset the energy expenses at stations 2 and 3.
So we're looking into.
I've got fire service line of deaths. I've also included the law enforcement fatalities from January through June 2023. There's one that I would bring to your attention, actually two that I would bring to your attention. Law enforcement deaths being struck by vehicles, both of those were officers who were deploying spike strips. I think our chiefs have previously mentioned that is an extremely dangerous activity. The other is deaths by states. You'll notice that Wisconsin is listed as number 2. We had several unfortunate incidents last year. The next item, this is about the situation at Oxford, Michigan. Parents bought their high school age son a firearm, and he then used that firearm to kill a number of students and personnel in the school.
Is that the one where the mother was sentenced yesterday to
Yes.
6 years or something?
I've noted some items that have particular attention. In particular, the one with staff on cooperation during the consultant's investigation of the incident. And then everybody here also has a list of the officers who died at 9/11. I did mention that on September 11th that there were 72 officers, and we have a list of the names of the officers and their agencies. One of these unusual things about this is that there also was a canine who was deceased. His handler survived. So in effect, there were 73. And if you take the number of firefighters, which is 343, 3 plus 4, 7, and add the 3 down, you get 73. A strange deal with numbers. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. The next item on our agenda is approval of the fire department bill.
Move to approve.
Second? Thank you. Fire department, or police department, or somebody. Who is this?
Just say Jody.
Fire, well, you get it.
So, I really didn't, in item 7 for the fire department bills, the 2 sets of bills, the first one was approved by President Keogh on October 25th. The second one approved by Commissioner Panker on November 15th. There wasn't anything noteworthy in those sets of bills to really bring out on those, pretty boilerplate. But entertain any questions you have.
Are there any questions about the fire department bills as presented? Hearing none. Did we get a motion to approve? Yeah, second, right. Okay. Any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we've got to do a roll call. Do the roll call.
Panker?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Gershman?
Yes.
Keogh?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you all. Approval of police department bills.
Thank you. There's 2 sets of bills in your packets from the police department as well. The first was signed on October 26th by Commissioner Hanson, and the second on November 15th by Commissioner Gershman. I really didn't see anything that stuck out in our stack either. However, I would answer any questions and ask that they be approved.
Motion to approve, thank you. Second, thank you. What questions do the commissioners have concerning these bills?
It's not really a question. I just congratulate the department again for the number of training activities they are doing.
Well, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. We paid I don't have the right glasses. We paid $964 for Super Sock. What is that?
Super socks?
No, it says Super Sock.
They're actually beanbag rounds.
Yeah.
That's what they call beanbag rounds. So less lethal ammunition that go in 12-gauge shotguns. They're called super socks. So they're essentially loaded with little BBs.
Okay. See, I learned something this morning.
They're a little bit more expensive than the socks, but they're better.
Make your own. You got somebody in the department who votes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can use one sock and fill a half a dozen.
Will do.
Yeah. Search and seizure training, Appleton.
Was that Officer Haas?
I don't, does it say that? I don't know.
I believe so, yeah. So that's actually a dual one, and I was going to bring that up in our activities. That's a de-escalation, and search and seizure training was like an update.
Okay.
I'll talk about that a little bit in our activities.
All right, fine. I've already talked with you about this $2,150 for CPR training. When I'd like you to check and see if one of the people here in the fire department could do that for nothing, or close to nothing. Cup of coffee.
Anyway. We could make coffee. I don't know if you guys drink coffee.
It has to be really good coffee.
It's pretty okay. It's pretty okay.
Anyway, I was just wondering about that.
I would be interested if you guys do have instructors. That's something we can work out or not. But
Yeah.
It's something we can definitely talk about.
Sure. Thanks.
That's $2,100 you could spend on something else.
Super socks.
Super socks, yes. An old story, but I was a kid, and my mother and dad and I were at a restaurant, and the waitress came up to my mother and said, taking the order, said, super juice, and my mother said yes. And the waitress couldn't, kind of, what? And she said it again, super juice. And my mother said, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, you get it, right? I didn't for a long time. Anyway. What is this prelim testifier?
Mm-hmm.
What is?
We pay a quarterly bill to Marathon County, and what they do is if we have cases that are tried in Marathon County and have a prelim for that case, they have somebody that will testify for us, so we don't have to pay overtime or to travel up there. There isn't an option to appear remotely for them, so it's actually worked out to be a pretty good deal. Marathon County DA's worked with us quite a bit in those areas.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting alternative. So someone else does the testifying based on what your person would tell them.
Based on our reports that we submit to them, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad to see I've learned more this morning. Go down a bit. Marshfield drones.
Yep. We replaced one of our drones. We have it's one of the minis. Our current drones, well, now we have 3. We're still using the older drones, but they're coming to the end of their life, and so we decided to update and we're able to purchase one more drone. We use that in our SRT functions we can fly it through a house, so that we don't have to make entry or that sort of thing. We can remotely see what's inside the house and gain intelligence that way.
You know, I was about to ask you, do you think the expense and the time it takes to train and so on is worth it?
Oh, man.
Yeah. And obviously you do.
Yeah, see what
Okay. That's all I have. So I think if there's nothing else, we need to have a roll call.
Pinker?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Ashman?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes. Thank you all. The motion carries. So the bills for the police department are approved, and I appreciate learning a little something that I didn't know before. Fire department activities, training reports, and correspondence.
Thank you. October was another busy month with 341 calls for service, averaging 11 calls per day. I'll point out one fire call of note. On October 29th, we responded to a residential house fire. This was Red Shift and Deputy Chief Weiland's fire. This was a basement fire with zero visibility, and crews did an excellent job finding and extinguishing the fire. The cause of the incident was incendiary. Well-trained crews were able to preserve evidence during mitigation of the incident. Post-fire, with the dual efforts of the fire and police departments' investigation teams, the suspect is in custody. Additionally, on top of training and additional community interactions, our fire prevention team provided education to 8 K through 6 schools, making an impact on 2,044 young people. They educated an additional 244 children at 10 different 4K programs. The program that this team provides is very impressive. Each lesson plan is developed for the age of the child and builds upon itself from year to year. They have established an interactive learning experience that is both fun and educational. I believe we have one of the best fire prevention teams and programs in the entire region. One of the things that makes me most proud of the team is once the grueling fire prevention week is completed, they don't rest on their laurels. They send out surveys to the schools to always look to improve the program. They do an amazing job, and I'm very proud of their talents and efforts to make our community safer.
Thank you. Anything more?
That will be it with the report.
Comments, questions for the chief on his report?
On page 9A, I'll direct this to Everett. How many Knox boxes do we actually have in town?
I don't have an answer for you on that because there's It's not a mandatory thing. Each business has the opportunity to do it. We try to provide that information in our DRT, which is the development review team. When we provide that information, they purchase them. But I would say probably 50%, if I were to guess right off the top of my head, at least 45 to 50% of the businesses in town have them. And what those systems do is allow us to put keys, the designated keys for that business, in the box, and then we have the master key that locks it inside there, so that we have the opportunity to get there. If we get to an alarm or some type of situation happening, we can open that up and limit the amount of damage we have on that building.
Okay. Then on page 9B, particular thanks to the firefighter who brought engine 4 down to the ceremony in Rapids.
Oh, yep. Firefighter Kanowski.
And then also, thanks to the off-duty members who were providing the educational activities. I thought that was excellent activity on their part.
I'll pass that along.
And then on page 9D, how are our specifications coming?
For our engine, our specs are going well. They were sent out by Deputy Chief Eric Jonas, and we're waiting to hear back from the bids on what's out there. So they're going very well.
Okay, and we're still looking at 24, 36 months.
Yep, nothing's changed. In initial discussions with the committee, and I'll make this as brief as possible. So you can get an ultra custom vehicle, a whole bunch of, everything on it custom that you want. It's going to actually be longer than 36 months. So if they would change a few items to be able to bring it to a little bit more standard, you can cut that time down, and they have looked at that, and that's been a choice. And then we've also looked at changing some things to obviously be as economical as we can, because the price of engines has obviously really skyrocketed in the last few years.
Okay. That's it.
Any other questions of the chief? Hearing none, I think this is something we accept and place on file.
Thank you.
Is that right? And thank you. Information on how, and how do you pronounce the acronym?
Mavis.
Sounds like that name, doesn't it?
It is. So due to some recent large-scale incidents, Commissioner Panker requested me to explain the Mavis system. Currently, 61 of the 72 counties in Wisconsin are part of, and here's the acronym, the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System.
Okay.
Primary purpose of Mavis is to coordinate the effective and efficient provision of a mutual aid during emergencies, natural disasters, or man-made catastrophes. And Mavis is not intended to relieve a community of the responsibilities of providing adequate emergency services for all local emergencies, since a community should have their own first line of defense. When a community exhausts its resources, Mavis can be activated by the stricken community, and through a systematic plan, Mavis will provide assistance of personnel and equipment, access to specialized equipment, and I gave to each one of the commissioners an example of one of our cards. Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department currently has 6 different cards. Structure fire for a skilled nursing facility / multifamily, structure fire in our non-hydranted area, life safety / EMS, train derailment, and disaster. On this card, actually, this last week is the deadline for doing some changes on our cards, and we have done some updates on these cards that was sent in to the Mavis. So this will be updated fairly soon. There's a few things to update on it. I know that Marshfield Utilities wants to be called. There's some changes on that when we have a fire, so that'll be on the next card. If you look on that piece of paper that I showed you, going kind of in the upper left, you'll see the word under alarm level still. A still alarm basically means our standard response to an incident. So that's a still alarm. We used to have a working one below that, but due to us being the only one in our Mavis area that has that, that was confusing dispatch. So we actually pulled that out to help aid all of the other people in the county through dispatch so that we could match up. Because these cards are not only used for us, but used for dispatch so that they can help us with resources. So as you go down with the alarm level, there's a box, a second, third, fourth, all the way down to a seventh box, depending on how big the incident is. And the incident commander can call for what he believes would be the level that they need. The reason why everything is in a grid form, so if we would say we were calling for on this alarm, we had a CBRF that we had an incident at, and the incident commander said that we needed a box alarm, you will see that besides all the resources that are in the still alarm that go all the way across, so everything in the box alarm is going to be requested also. That'll be automatic and the dispatcher knows what to call. If I would say like in the first box there, the Hewitt engine is being called for on that box alarm. If they would call back and say they're unavailable, let's say that they have another incident going on, then the dispatcher just simply goes down to the next box below it and would call Spencer Fire Department. And they would make those requests and just keep moving down on the box to get resources to fill the box ahead of it. So it's a real simple program to be able to do with Mavis. And what it's also made to do is this. Is that you'll see on a lot of our cards and people that look at the Mavis things online, is that respectfully speaking, obviously we've talked about this before, that Marshfield's kind of on an island. There aren't many full-time departments that are very close to us. So depending on time of day, staffing, obviously we don't know the other departments, their members, primarily if they're working days, nights, if they're on another incident. So this is really important when we need other resources to be able to have a systematic approach to it. And the reason why it's also important is that we don't want to overburden any one particular community that's near us, so that it's supposed to spread everything around. So it's supposed to be able to bring resources in, draw them in, and it can be from a ways away, but not taxing one other community also. So it's a good system, and Commissioner Penker, like I said, asked me to kind of explain it, and hopefully I've done it in a brief and manner that you understand a little more about Mavis.
Bill, you asked where are you with this?
Oh, this is an absolutely excellent concept to use. And Chief can correct me if I'm wrong. This started in Illinois or Indiana, and it's moved its way up. One thing to note is that a couple weeks ago there was a major fire in downtown Tomahawk, and they used the Mavis system. And their Mavis responding agencies went as far south as Mosby. And then at the very end, they were requesting a tanker task force for extra water, and that went, Stratford was dispatched at that point. So this can go really extremely long distances depending upon what you've got.
Okay. Anything else that we want to bring up regarding the Chief's report? Chief, thank you. I honestly knew nothing about that before, so it's helpful to me too. Next item on our agenda is for Chief Grewing to talk about the police department.
Cool, thank you. In reviewing the activities from last month, there's a couple of topics that stuck out to me that I'd like to just highlight a little bit. The first is that we were able to reach out to our community again on a few occasions, and the first that stuck out to me was on the 4th, Community Officer Iverson and SRO Erickson had coffee with the cop with Tiny Tigers with the kids. That's something that we haven't done, and it's a thing that I'd like to bring back is a lot more community involvement. And in the coming months, when we start talking about our core values and things, you'll be hearing that as a reoccurring theme. That's something that we'd like to focus on. So I want to highlight that and push towards reaching new goals there. Along with that, since COVID and budget challenges and things like that, we stepped away from trick-or-treating and the downtown trick-or-treating where we didn't buy candy last year, and we brought that back this year, and it was a welcome change again. And it was, I think I know that our employees had a lot of fun having the kids stop by and hand out candy and just have that connection with the community. And then along the same lines, on the 31st, actual Halloween, we still continue to patrol like we always did. And it's my vision that I think on the actual Halloween, when kids are out and about, it's our job to keep them as safe as possible. But on that downtown trick-or-treating, we get a chance to interact with them on a different level and hand out candy. So that stuck out to me in our interactions this last month, and it's something I want to continue. The other topic that stuck out to me is that we focused our training on a couple of occasions of de-escalation. The first is a kind of a double training. Our Officer Kaiser was extremely interested in CIT, which is Critical Incident Team, that deals with anybody that's in crisis. Crisis can be caused by many different things, from mental illness to intoxication or what have you. He was able to attend a couple of sessions that focused on crisis, on specifically intoxication, and then another one specifically on diseases that come later in life, the elder issues with dementia and what have you. Both of those instances are very different. Both of those types of incidents are very difficult to deal with in real life because of the amount of communication that they actually understand from us. And so there's obvious barriers which can lead to use of force, can lead to all kinds of stuff. And so I was happy to see him go to those. And then he's very good at sharing that with the rest of the department when he returns. And Officer Haas, as mentioned in the questions with the bills, he attended a class that had a little bit different focus on de-escalation. This was basically keeping an eye on our coworkers, and if they become emotionally charged, to be able to step in and to bring them back down to earth and to calm them down in situations too. So we not only have to keep an eye on our community, make sure that they're safe in crisis, but also each other. And that helps keep all of us safe, citizens, officers, and the department. So I thought those were worth highlighting this last month. And with that, I would entertain any questions and ask that they be placed on file.
Gentlemen?
Well, as I mentioned in the budget, again, training is so important for the department. There were 8 training activities this month, or last month, which I thought was excellent. Though correct me if I'm wrong, I do not recall seeing anything here about domestic violence awareness month.
I don't think that we highlighted it specifically. I apologize. I did actually one thing that I did do that isn't on there is I went to PDC and I read a proclamation in honor of Domestic Abuse Month. I didn't highlight it on the activities.
Okay. I'm bringing that up, and I'll pass this over to you later. My wife is on the mailing list for the women's community in Wausau, and we had received this about one of their domestic awareness programs. And I've been up to one or two of these, and the Marathon County group does an excellent job.
Yep, and I can't believe I didn't put it on the activities list. The proclamation that I read for PDC, and I'm sure everybody's aware of PDC, is they provide a great resource for domestic abuse victims. There were several victims that were there in celebration of the event, and they had some music, they had some food. It was a pretty cool event held at the library earlier this month.
Anything more? Thank you, Chief. It's always good to see a busy month and those kinds of things. In any case, Chief Gerwig, we now have a review of the proposals for therapy dog handler. And you need to talk your way through that a little bit, I think.
I will. This seems to be that reoccurring theme with me lately is this therapy dog project. So the FLSA laws, the Fair Labor Standards Act, requires that we reimburse our canine handlers, and the therapy dog is classified as canine handler, obviously. 1/2 hour for each day, each calendar day, which comes to about 182.5 hours a year. The city rules, or I don't know if it's law or ordinance or whatever, but as long as there's no money basically attached to an MOU, there's no need to go through all of the hoops with finance, budget, personnel, and common council and all of that. If there's no money issues, then we can just agree to that amongst this body. With the reimbursement because of FSLA or FLSA, we have to go through some more hoops than what we anticipated. And with that also involves negotiations with the union, so to speak, because we have to enter into the contract for that negotiation, because this is a separate position. Enclosed in your packet, I did write a draft that I would like you all to approve. This draft includes, basically it's adding a paragraph in our contract, specifically for therapy dogs. The therapy dog currently is assigned to the SRO, which is our school resource officer. In looking at the days off during the school year where students aren't in school, it almost comes to the exact amount of hours that we would owe them for the 1/2 hour per day. So the logical approach to this would be to have our school resource officer be off on the days where students aren't in school, which would cover that obligation, and also our commitment to the school to have them there when students are there. I also put in there that there's some different hours that we have in our department. We have 8-hour shifts, we have 12-hour shifts, and 10-hour shifts. And I wanted to add that in this area because a therapy dog could be, there might be a time that we want to have a community officer have a therapy dog, or who knows, another member of our department, we may see a need for a therapy dog in another area in our department. So rather than work through all of this again in the future, I thought we would put in the hour reimbursement for the different types of hours that we have in our department right now. If this body approves me to move forward, I would talk with the union and make sure that they're on board, and then continue to finance, budget, personnel, and common council. Provided that all goes good, hopefully I will never have to talk about therapy dogs in this way again in front of you folks.
I'll begin the discussion. In effect, we thought we could do the therapy dog project without cost, and now we have a contracted cost. How much is that dollar amount?
If we paid out the dollar, and depending on the wages, it's in the area of $6,500 a year.
Okay. And does the school resource officer, does that position include activities that are, schools operate from a time in the morning to a time in the afternoon. But a lot of school activity where a lot of education occurs is out of regular school hours. Is the SRO expected to participate in those things, and would the dog then play a role?
Depending on the activity, yeah, our SROs participate, and especially with our agreement with the school now, we want our SROs involved in things like school dances and sporting events and all of those other things that, like you said, that occur outside. When appropriate, the dog would be with SRO client.
Has HAP reviewed, the city attorney reviewed the documents you have in the packet?
The MOU he's approved, the Human Resources and City Administrator approved and reviewed and approved the contract.
Okay, my questions are done. Anything else?
I have a question. Jody, just as a review, are we getting any compensation at all from the school district for providing the dog? And the other thing is, I know you mentioned $6,500. That would be just the cost for the extra time. It wouldn't be all the other incidentals, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the $6,500 is just that half hour per day for the FLSA obligation. The school isn't reimbursing us at all for the cost of the dog, but the dog is being received on donation, and basically we're just paying for the veterinary costs and that sort of thing. And I'm sorry, I don't know the other question, I don't remember.
So, I mean, the total cost, I mean, are you guessing to have the dog plus with the hourly differential, you're thinking, well, it's going to be $89,000 a year?
That's probably a pretty fair estimate.
So we know the use of therapy dogs in schools has been popular nationally, but you know, it does have a certain degree. Some people feel it's controversial to a certain sense that maybe every parent doesn't want a dog in the school with their kid. I'm just wondering if you got any feedback at all from the school district as far as they have in place.
Yeah, that's really fair, and thanks for bringing it up. We talked at length with the school, and that was some of the concerns that they had. So in the beginning of this whole project, we talked with Superintendent Christensen, and we did work through those instances that feels that the dog would be a good addition to the school. We also have had a lot of feedback and just the idea of having a therapy dog in public and from the public and also from members in the school, and it's been very, very positive. Also in other communities with therapy dogs, we haven't found a negative side yet that they've shared with us. So it seems like it's a good idea, and I think that the school and I know that we are very excited to move forward with it if possible.
I think that this would be something that occasionally we should review the success of the program. I hate to just set it and start it and then just leave and not really evaluate how that's going. So that's just my last additional thought. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you, Randy. And I think a review makes sense.
Yep, I didn't mean the comments of never talking in front of the body again as not reviewing.
No. That's fine. Don't worry about that part.
Okay.
The idea of a therapy dog, I've not gotten any negatives from it. I'm on another board with Superintendent Christensen, and the only thing he said to me is that he's looking forward to it. He thinks it's a good idea. You know, if we're talking $8,000 or $9,000 on an annual basis, now I don't want to sound like I don't care about the citizens' money, but it seems to me to be a good investment. Anyway, all right. I don't think we have anything more to deal with as far as that is concerned. What do you want?
Recommendation.
Move forward, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, somebody make a motion.
Motion to move forward.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to move forward. Don't move backward.
I don't want to move backward.
Yeah, okay. All in favor of the motion to have the police chief move forward, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, okay, terrific. It's all ayes. Go ahead. Don't tell me it's a roll call. You heard them all.
Well, there's money involved, so, but that's all.
Oh, well, it's not big money, so we're, you know, sometimes the rules get to be onerous. Any agenda items for our next meeting? Anything that someone wants to make sure we discuss and have on the agenda for our next meeting in December? Okay, we'll find plenty. So thank you for not having any more. The next item on the agenda is to adjourn to closed session. Under Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.86, parenthesis 1, parenthesis C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And specifically, we're going to talk about the selection of a fire chief. I need a motion to go to closed session.
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.